As many of you are aware, I got the opportunity recently to speak at the Motorcycle Camping and Adventure Touring Show in Lewisville, Texas. I spoke on Saturday and Sunday to a pretty good crowd both days that came out for the show. That what you're looking at right now is scenes from the show on Saturday where I forgot to start my microphone. They could hear me, but you guys can't hear me. But on both days, I asked how many people were familiar with MCrider, and you can see me doing that here with the crowd now. And I was pleasantly surprised that both days, the vast majority of attendees knew of MCrider. So I appreciate you guys coming out and meeting me and coming out to hear me talk. So I'll show you Sunday's presentation and hope that you guys enjoy this, and maybe next year you can plan to meet us out there. If they run this show again next year, hopefully I'll be invited back to speak then. So here's Sunday's presentation. Hope you guys enjoy this. I know MCrider people must sleep in on Sunday morning or something, because we had this area filled up yesterday. My name's Kevin. I'm the host of a YouTube channel, MCrider. I don't know who's familiar with it, who's not at this point. So if you're familiar with MCrider, raise your hand up. So everybody, right? We got one new guy maybe, never heard of me, don't care to know who I am. But MCrider is a weekly YouTube channel or a weekly YouTube show. I release every Friday morning on motorcycle safety, focus on road skills and road strategy to help make riders better. And my background, I'm an MSF instructor. I taught Basic Rider Course 2, and a Total Control course, which is an intermediate level class. And I started MCrider as a follow-up for students once they would leave class in order to keep safety and training topics top of mind for them. So that's kind of the background of MCrider. Yesterday I talked about road skills and road strategy. Today I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I want to talk with you about a couple of incidents that made MCrider more real to me and showed me how training can be a very important part of a rider's experience. But before we get into that, I gave a hat away yesterday, and I'd like to give a hat away today. So we'll do a little trivia thing, and if you know the answer, throw your hand up. I'll try to figure out who put their hand up first. And if you know the answer, then I'll give you an MCrider hat. And so we'll do a little trivia question. Can anybody name either one of the two motorcycles, the brand and model that's in the background of the MCrider videos? Anybody know what I'm riding? I think I saw yours first. Tenere and a Harley. Tenere's gone now, was replaced by the XSR 900, but the Harley's still there. So you're the proud new owner of an MCrider hat. All right, so I want to go back a few years as I'm telling this story, and I want you guys to listen closely because it'll be interactive here in a little bit, and I want you to provide some feedback. And this was, and I don't know how many years ago, several years ago, before I was an instructor. I was involved in a crash, and I'm going to tell the story of that crash, and then I'm going to ask you guys some of the things that led up to that crash. What were some of the contributing factors of it? So I used to work for American Airlines, and I live in Roanoke, so I commuted back and forth 5 days a week from Roanoke to American Airlines, about 26 miles each way. And Friday afternoon, my wife and I decided that we were going to take our girls to a concert that night. So I made arrangements to get off work a little bit early. And if you're familiar with the southern Grapevine area, that's when they first started all of that road construction there. And everything was just crazy there. They had changed all the exit ramps and the roads were torn up. So I had been avoiding that area just because of all the traffic congestion. But because I was getting off work early and I wanted to make good time, I decided to drive right up through that Grapevine area. I was in the far left-hand lane, and there was a stoplight in front of us that was green. There was another one on the other side of the overpass that was green. And I was making a left-hand turn to get on 114 to head back to the house. From there, it was just a straight shot back to the house. So I was in the far left-hand lane. I had 3 cars in front of me. We were going about 35 miles per hour. I had about a car and a half car length between me and the vehicle in front of me. And I had a solid white line separating me from another lane of traffic that was going the same direction. I had a car come up from the right-hand side, and they cut across that solid white line quickly, and as soon as they got over there, they slammed on their brakes. I was on a Ninja 650R. I reached out, I grabbed the front brake. The front tire immediately locked up. The pavement was kind of chewed up. I went over on my right-hand side. I was wearing a jacket, gloves, full-face helmet, boots, and jeans. I remember hitting the pavement thinking, man, that was a pretty solid shot. I hit pretty hard. And then the next thing I heard was the motorcycle sliding off, and I was more concerned about the motorcycle at that point, wondering how much damage there'd be. So I thought I was okay. I set up in the road, and then it dawned on me that I had traffic behind me as well, and I was hoping they were getting stopped, and they did. So the end result is I broke my collarbone from the impact. I had a big gash in the helmet and slide marks all the way down the helmet. I didn't even realize I'd hit my head on the pavement, but I had no head injury at all. I ended up breaking my big toe where the bike fell on my foot. But that was kind of an eye-opener for me in my riding. And I had been riding for a long time prior to that. I started riding when I was 12, got my license at 14, so I would call myself an experienced rider. But, you know, that came up on me real quick. So from that story, what were some things that contributed to that accident? Either what I did or what somebody else did. Can anybody name something? All right, the way I went to the front brake.
The spacing about safe that allows people.
Yep, yeah, the gap that I had between me and the vehicle.
Maybe move a little closer to the right, since the left is a solid white line. If I'm understanding correctly, the left is solid, the right is not solid.
Yeah, I was in my lane, and then I had the car coming up on the right, so. Lane position, yeah, may have played a part in it. Anything else?
What about your skate path? Was that
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about in the skate path. Okay, here's one, okay. Being in a hurry. Yeah, so that's what I was about ready to get to. Where was I going? Right, that concert. So I could tell you exactly what was going through my mind prior to the crash. What time do we need to be there? Do I have cash in my wallet? Do I need to go to the bank? Are the girls going to be ready whenever I get home? Oh crap, a car just pulled out in front of me. That's exactly what was going on. I wasn't riding in the moment, and I wasn't thinking about what was going on. What about the car? Did the other car play a part in it? All right. They shouldn't have crossed the solid white line. They filled up that gap, they slammed their brakes on. So we're going to do something here. I'm going to list over here the things that were under my control, and the things over here that were not under my control. Was the way I went to the front brakes under my control? Yep. Was the following distance I had between me and the vehicle under my control? Yep. Was my lane position under my control? Yep. Did I mention what I was thinking about? Was what I was thinking about under my control? Was the fact that the car crossed the solid white line and slammed on their brakes under my control? No. So I've been thinking about this accident for years, recounting it, and I cannot think of one other thing that was not under my control, that car cutting out. So what separates a good rider from the average rider out on the street is a good rider is going to eliminate everything out of this column. Had I had a better following distance, I may not have had a crash. Had I been thinking about what I was doing, I may not have had a crash. Had I practiced emergency braking, because I had taken a basic rider course, but it had been several years earlier, I hadn't practiced it since then. Had I known how to emergency brake, I may not have had a crash. So if I had eliminated all of these things when that car pulls out in front of you, because that car will pull out in front of you, but if you've got this column empty over here, you're going to be in a much better position to avoid those types of accidents. So what did I do from there? As a rider, to be honest with you, I was laying in the hospital bed. My girls are back here in the back. I had to call my wife. They came to pick me up. I'm laying in the bed. I knew I was going to be okay, that I was going home. But my oldest daughter, I think it was her first time she'd been in a hospital before. And I remember her looking at me as I'm laying there in the hospital bed. And to be honest, I thought about, do I really want to keep doing this? Do I want to keep riding or not? But I knew that if I didn't keep riding, that a part of me was going to stay there at the hospital. That it had become such a part of me and something that I enjoyed so much. But if I was going to keep doing it, I had to figure out how to do it right. So that's kind of what got me started on the path to become an instructor. And what ultimately led to MCrider was me figuring out how to do this thing right to keep my family out of those situations in the future. So between the time of that accident to the time that I became a rider coach, I went back and I took a basic rider course again, and I was surprised at how many bad habits I had developed in my years since I had taken it the first time. I ended up taking an advanced class, and in that advanced class, the owner of that school watched me ride during that whole weekend, and he said, "Hey, you're a pretty decent rider. Have you ever thought about becoming a riding instructor?" So I signed up to become a riding instructor. Part of the requirements for there, I took the basic rider course multiple times again after that, began practicing on my own, which was probably the most important thing that I did, to be honest with you, was spending time on my own. I made it a routine when I was still working at American Airlines. I would go out, I had an hour for lunch, and there was a big empty parking lot near there, and I'd grab some food, spend 10 minutes eating food, and then I'd spend 45 minutes on that parking lot. And it was an MSF range, so I could practice all of that stuff on my own motorcycle. And that grew my riding skills probably more than anything else, is that few minutes every day that I would spend out on that parking lot. So I became an instructor. I started teaching these classes, and my riding skills greatly improved, and my road strategy greatly improved. So all of this stuff over in this left-hand column, there's still going to be times where you're thinking about something else. We're all human. There's still going to be times where things add up in this column, but the fewer that we can have at any given time, the better off we are, and the lower the odds of us being involved in an incident. So let's fast forward from that accident. We're going to step up about 4.5 years now. Now I'm a rider coach. I still worked at American Airlines, still commuted 26 miles every day, one way back and forth to American Airlines. And it was a nice afternoon. I was coming home, didn't have the Ninja 650R that got totaled out in the accident. I was now riding the Yamaha FJR. And they were still doing the construction in Grapevine. So I was avoiding all of that area. And by avoiding that area, there's this really cool road in the Westlake area that's the closest thing to Laguna Seca, I think, that we've got here in Texas. That's this nice little S-turn. So it curves to the left, and then it curves to the right, and then it drops down this big hill, and it goes back down to 114. That was the highlight of my day, being able to ride that little stretch of road to and from work every week or every day. So I'm on that section of road, and I'm riding in the moment at this time. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. I approached that first left-hand turn, and I was going about, between 30 and 35 miles per hour. I've got my head and eyes turned and I'm looking through the corner. I've got the motorcycle leaned over. Where it comes up to that right-hand turn is a blind corner because there's a lot of bushes and shrubs right there in that corner. And I've ridden that road enough that I know it's also an area where there's likely to be gravel in that corner because cars often cut that corner short and they kick gravel up on the road. So I was particularly cautious about that corner. But I've got my head and eyes turned to the right and I'm setting up for that corner. I'm on the outside portion of my lane and I'm looking through that corner and I can't see all the way through, but I can tell something doesn't look right. Something is off in that corner. And I can kind of see it through the bushes, but I can't tell what it is. It just looks dark. And I come a little bit further through the corner, and as I get around where the visibility opens up on that corner, a black Cadillac Escalade decided they were going to make a U-turn right there. So at the base of a hill, just as it starts to go down, right around a blind corner, I've got a car making a U-turn, and I'm looking at the passenger door of this car. And I've got the motorcycle leaned over and I'm headed towards it. I didn't even think about it. There was no mental processing that went on. I straightened the motorcycle up. I squeezed in the clutch. I reached out for the front brake and I started squeezing on that front brake and I was slowly applying pressure to that front brake. And all I really remember was, am I going to get the motorcycle stopped in time? Am I going to be able to get this thing stopped in time? And I did. I stopped about 4.5 feet from the vehicle, and now I'm looking through the passenger window at the driver who's just sitting there looking at me, and I'm just waving them on because I don't want to get rear-ended from behind. I know I'm sitting in a vulnerable spot. So the driver got the vehicle turned around, had to do one of these numbers to get it turned around because it was a 2-lane road, a ditch on either side with barbed wire fence right on the other side. So there was no escape path for me. There was either get it stopped or have an accident. I got it stopped. I went home and changed my shorts, and then I sat down and I thought about the incident, and I thought about what had changed from that one to the story that I told you guys 4 years earlier. What had changed was me. I was able to get that motorcycle to a stop because I was practicing emergency braking. I was on a much more difficult motorcycle to perform this on. I was on a smaller bike to begin with. Now I'm on a bigger sport touring motorcycle. I got that bike to a stop, and it wasn't because I'm a fantastic rider, and it wasn't because I rose to the moment, and I performed in the clutch. It was because I had practiced emergency braking over and over in a parking lot or when I was teaching a class. And when I needed those skills, they were there. And I've got a fireman friend who's got a phrase that I really like. He says, "You'll never rise to the moment. You'll always fall to your level of training." Right? So I like that saying, and that happens a lot for motorcyclists as well. We're going to fall to our level of training. And if the only training that you've ever received is a basic rider course and you took it several years back and you've not practiced emergency braking and you've not practiced stopping quickly in a curve and you've not continued to develop and grow these skills, they are not going to be there when you need it in an emergency. Right? So you're either growing as a rider in your skills or you're decreasing in your skills as a rider. So that's what MCrider is about. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I know in my own life it saved me from that incident. So that's why I release the weekly videos, and that's what they're on, either road skills or road strategy. The two combination of those things helps make you a better rider. That's why I'm passionate about it, and I know that a lot of people have come on board with me with MCrider, and I really appreciate that. If you want to get more involved with MCrider, you can pull up the browser on your phone there in your pocket. Go to mcrider.com/email. I'll send you a weekly email, totally free of charge. It'll have the current video that we're publishing on MCrider, so you can get that for free. Or you can go to YouTube and subscribe there and hit that bell icon. You'll get a notification for it. What I failed to mention so far in this one is if you support the channel on Patreon or through YouTube as a member, you'll get access to our forum and field guide. The forum, I've got other rider coaches from all over the country that are on there to help riders out and to answer questions. We've got over 7,000 posts and several thousand members that are on the forums. They're really active, and it's a really good community. And in addition to that, I've got the field guide on there, which has training exercises that you can practice on any open parking lot. So if you want to work on your emergency braking, you can pull up that skill in the field guide. It's got a description of what that exercise is. It's got a diagram of how you would perform it on any open parking lot. I've got coaching tips, so things that I've seen other riders when they've performed those, through a basic class, and then common problem resolution. So if you're having struggles, this may be the answer to it. And then a video demonstration of how that exercise is run and what it looks like. So I hope that you guys will get involved, subscribe to the email list that we've got coming out, and just start applying the skills and the strategy that we teach at MCrider, and I know it will pay you back further down the road by helping make you a better rider. So thank you guys for coming out. I'll be out here at the table for an hour or so. I've got t-shirts and hats over there if anybody would want one. Come by and say hi, and till then, guys, thank you for coming out. Kevin with MCrider. We'll see you on the road.
MCrider is made possible by our friends on Patreon. To learn how to support MCrider, get access to the field guide and the forums, go to mcrider.com/support.